Welcome to Stuff and Whiskey. I'm Josh.
And I'm Erin.
And today we're talking about Jack Daniels. Is it whiskey? Is it bourbon? Does it really matter?
Welcome to the channel, bringing a real-world perspective to the real-world whiskey consumer.
Today we're talking about Jack Daniels. People love to get feisty about this subject.
Ooh,
People love to get spicy about it. Yeah. Look, and if that's you, we've got some words, but we'll get into that after we get into the first sip, which is a segment we do every Tuesday where we try something that we've never tried before, or rather, we pick a random sample blind that is made up of a pool of samples that we've never tried before. So there's no familiarity. We're going into it totally blind, so we don't know whether we're supposed to like it or not.
You're getting better at saying familiarity.
I am. It's taken a lot of practice and slowing down a little bit, but we don't know if it's going to be good. We don't know if it's going to be bad. Allocated, available, expensive, inexpensive. Let's get into it and find out what's in this glass and whether we think it's any good.
Okay. Get a slight stinky feet on this.
Really?
Yeah. And a little bit of alcohol. Stinky feet and alcohol.
I'm getting mega sweetness. Just, it doesn't smell very high proof. It smells smells like classic bourbon, but very sweet forward. Almost like kind of like a candy fruit forwardness. Let's get into the palate and see what's up.
It's kind of earthy, but also a little bit sweet on the back end.
Yeah, I see your earthiness. I'm getting a lot of sweetness, a little bit of oak. It's pretty sharp on that first sip and a little thin to me.
It kind of has like an effervescent. I think the sharpness makes me feel like it's carbonated.
Yeah, it kind of has like that's a good way of saying it. Let's get into another sip.
Same things.
Yeah, I mean there's not a lot to write home about here in this glass. We'll get into a third sip here in a minute, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm just getting a lot of typical general corn forward bourbon sweetness, a little bit of fruit sweetness in there.
There is a little punch. Like it's a little, there's a little spice to it.
It's a little prickly. Yeah, you're getting a little bit of barrel spice that's kind of right there in the mid palate, and it does linger around a little bit. It seems pretty standard, seems pretty low proof to me. It's not something I would typically reach for. I feel like there's a lot of bourbons that are around the $30 price point that offer a very similar experience to this. So if this falls around that price point, I would be pretty happy with it. If it's much more than that, I probably wouldn't be very happy with it. And yeah, hopefully this is something that's available around $30. Let's get into one more sip before we get into our ratings on this.
Okay. It's consistent, I will say that.
Yeah.
Which is a plus in my book. Consistency is key.
Consistent, simple. Be happy sipping this on like a nice hot summer day. This is kind of the type of bourbon I gravitate towards on those types of days. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Nose, flavor, experience. Where are you at?
You know, I think it gets a thumbs up across the board.
Yeah.
It's good. It's solid. It's consistent. I like it.
Yeah.
The end.
I'm going to give it a thumbs up on nose, thumbs up on flavor. Just okay on the experience. It's a little sharp, a little thin. That has stuck around. And it's just, that's not my favorite thing.
I don't mind it. I kind of like it.
Yeah. It would be a very specific situation. Like if this were a bottle we had, I'd be happy to have it. I wouldn't be mad if I didn't have it because there's a lot of other stuff that's kind of similar. And it's not something that I typically reach for a ton. So not when we're filming or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's find out what we've been sipping.
Okay.
This is Hancock's President's Reserve, 88.9 proof.
It is low proof.
It is low proof. This is a Buffalo Trace product.
Okay.
This is their mash bill 2, their higher rye mash bill, which even their high rye mash bill is very low rye, percentage rye compared to a lot of distilleries. Interesting. So with this being a Buffalo Trace product, typically if I get something that jumps out at me, it's more of like that grape nerds, like the purple and pink nerds. I'm not getting that on this. This is a little bit more artificially sweet and earthy.
I'm getting earthy and then a little bit of sweetness, but not, maybe artificial is the correct term, but not overpoweringly artificial, if that makes sense.
I don't know. To me, this is pretty standard in the pocket $30 bourbon.
What's the price?
I honestly don't know. I've never seen a bottle in person.
Okay.
Ever once.
I'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it probably retails around there, but it's one of those items that is just insanely difficult to get your hands on. People pay upwards of like $60 to $80 to $100 or more on the secondary market for some of these. They don't pop up a lot. just not a widely distributed item. All right, Erin reminded me that we had to look it up because we've got to get this thing some retail and consumer ratings. Turns out Breaking Bourbon says it's a $50 bottle, which is not going to bode well for this. I can already tell you that much. But we also saw that there are people online, there's online outlets that are selling this for over $200. And this is this is the most
exploded my brain.
$25 or $30 bottle of bourbon.
I would pay
ever.
$30, $35 for this happily.
35 is max.
More than that, I'm a no.
Yeah,
I'm a hard pass.
It's $40, I'm walking out the door, and that's kind of, I mean, that kind of tells you what we think because it's more than that just to get it if you get it at retail. So let's get into it. Almost unavailable, harder to get than Blanton's, harder to get than
Really?
Yeah, they don't distribute it that much. But it is $50. So where are you at on retail? The price and the availability.
Unfortunately, while it is solid, consistent, good, it's going to get a thumbs down on retail because for the price, there are other solid, consistent, good bourbons I can get for $35.
Yeah. Now we talked some stuff, but consumer score, would you buy it or not? This is on a shelf in front of you for $50. Will you buy it once?
Would not. Thumbs down.
Okay. I'm going to say thumbs down on retail because the availability is just non-existent and the price is higher than I would ever want to pay for what is a pretty standard product.
Yeah.
Now, would I buy it if it were on the shelf in front of me for $50? I might buy it one time.
Okay.
Some of that's coming because of the channel. Some of that's coming because if we have guests over, I'd love to have a bottle for them to be able to try in relation to other things.
I'm thinking selfishly when I answer those questions.
But if I'm being honest, if I'm being totally honest, I would give it a thumbs down on consumer as well.
Okay.
There's just other things I'd rather spend $50 on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other Buffalo Trace products that I like more than this. If you're wondering about Hancock's President's Reserve, just get like a regular old Buffalo Trace. It's not that much different than that. And if you can't get Buffalo Trace, get an Evan Williams 1783 or a Blade and Bow or an Elijah Craig Small Batch or something. Like the flavor profiles might be slightly different, but you're not really getting that much different of an experience. Buffalo Trace is not putting anything super special in their bottles. They're just a distiller out there distilling whiskey, just like all the rest of them. They make good, decent whiskey for the money. So don't freak out with FOMO over this pour right here.
Truth.
But if you are freaking out a little bit over how we do things here on the channel, where we
What?
keep it real,
Keep
then
it real.
check the video description below for a link to our Patreon. Over there, we do all kinds of stuff, have all kinds of fun. It's our community element. We have a spreadsheet that has our scores for all the blind pours we try here on the channel. We have 2 additional videos every week over there. And we have Patreon-only live streams where we get together. We do blind flight nights. We have happy hours.
Sip a little, talk a little.
Yep.
It's good times.
Yeah, check it out down there in the video description below.
And if you want to get a sweet shirt like Josh is wearing, you can check out the Stuff and Whiskey shop. We've got that shirt plus other merch. We have a white version of that. It's a classic 80s vibe because we're 80s kids.
Yeah.
We've got other stuff. Check it out. It's pretty cool.
All right, let's get into our main topic, talking about is Jack Daniel's bourbon or not?
Oh, let's do it.
All right.
I'm excited.
Like you said, people like to get spicy about this.
People like to get spicy.
Yeah, just in general, right? It's not just about this. People
about everything.
love to get online
People
and
like
argue
to get
about
offended.
things. Yeah. I wonder if the people who get online and argue about things, if they spent all that time and energy just creating relationships and building community and getting together and hanging out and sharing bottles and things like that, you know,
That's a good question.
They might not be wanting to spend their time online arguing about everything.
That's true.
But nonetheless, let's get into the Jack Daniel's discussion.
Let's.
Is it bourbon?
I mean, is it technically?
Well, technically it meets all the requirements of bourbon.
Okay.
But it doesn't even matter, okay? Like, this whole conversation doesn't matter. So we'll come back around to that. But if you want to be really technical, it meets all the requirements for bourbon. But Jack Daniel's, way back when, their marketing department was really smart, and they said, we're going to run it through this charcoal mellowing process, which, by the way, isn't exclusive to them, and they weren't necessarily the first people to come up with it. There are Kentucky distilleries that have done this as well. But they
capitalized on that as a marketing opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they spun it as a marketing thing and said that this charcoal mellowing, this Lincoln County process, creates smooth whiskey. So much so that Chris Stapleton even wrote a song about Tennessee whiskey being so smooth. You know, it's one of those things that, is it bourbon? Technically, yes.
They did that so they can market it as Tennessee whiskey.
Right.
Yeah. Which was genius
and
on their part.
The government was going to force the bourbon label on them because it's bourbon. But Jack Daniels lobbied against that, or fought back against that at least, and they got them to recognize Tennessee whiskey as its own category. Now look, we don't have a dog in this hunt. We live in Nashville. If anything, you think we would be partial as to wanting it to be Tennessee whiskey and having a little state pride and all that stuff, but it's bourbon.
Yeah,
like it's
it is.
Their own master distillers has even said it, and I'll put a video link in the description below down there where their master distillers over on Jason C's channel, The Mash and Drum, he's talking with them, and they say, yeah, this meets all the requirements of bourbon. We just choose to call it Tennessee whiskey. They weren't the marketing department that came up with that all these years ago, but they're honoring the tradition that Jack Daniels has set before them. But at the end of the day, this just flat out doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Do you like it? Then that's all that matters.
Yeah. Call your whiskey whatever you want to call it.
Can I call it sugar water?
Sure.
Okay.
Brown sugar water.
I'm drinking sugar water.
Enjoy it however you want to enjoy it, whether you want to enjoy it neat, on the rocks, with a mixer,
mixing something,
whatever. Jack and Cokes are like the Nashville calling card around here for sporting events.
Yeah, summertime sporting events.
And let other people drink their whiskey how they want, call it how they want to call it. Like, is at the end of the day, just stop fighting online and drink some whiskey with some good friends and enjoy your life already.
Preach. So I think that's it on our main topic this week. Josh is getting a little spicy himself.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
simmer down. I'm ready
now.
to argue about the people who are
We're gonna
arguing.
simmer down, and we're gonna talk about something fun, which is television.
Yes. Our other stuff this week is a little bit of Netflix. You know how we do around here from time to time.
Yes.
What do we got?
We got Space Force.
Okay.
Steve Carell. We're a little late to this train because I think it came out in 2020.
The first season did.
First season did.
And then the recent season just came out.
The second season just came out. At the filming of this episode, we have not seen the second season yet. We're still watching the first. But so far, we're really liking it. It's a really well done show. Like, it's not like The Office. If the only thing you've seen Steve Carell in is The Office, he's funny in it. It's funny like The Office, but it's different.
So Steve Carell's the main guy, and then his counterpart is John Malkovich. And to me, John Malkovich in this is absolutely brilliant, and there's very little that he's in that isn't brilliant.
Yeah.
But if you've seen the movie Burn After Reading, this is like that, except you get it in so many more episodes.
Yeah,
he does such a good job. He's continually cracking me up. And Steve Carell's funny too, but I just think John Malkovich absolutely shines in this. And then the funniest thing for us, and maybe we're just not big on news events or whatever.
I'm oblivious.
And we missed even this when it first came around. But apparently, you found out the other day, there is an actual Space Force.
There is an actual U.S. Space Force that was established. I think it was in 2020 as well. This actual U.S. Space Force does exist.
I wonder if I heard that and just forgot.
Which blew my mind. I literally lost my brains for 45 minutes trying to comprehend that that's a thing that exists. So cool.
But this, I think they must have heard about it, and we're gonna spoof it. So anyways,
maybe, who knows?
It's a ton of fun. If you like to laugh, if you like to have a little 30-minute humorous show that you can tune into fairly regularly, and you haven't heard of it like us when we missed it in 2020, we were dealing with a few other things worldwide at that point in time.
So was everyone else, which is how they probably found out about it.
But we both worked jobs where it actually demanded more of us rather than less. So a lot of the times people were at home watching a lot of Netflix and all the things they could.
Yeah.
We missed out on a lot of that.
Did.
But it's a great show. Absolutely loving it. Can't recommend it enough. It's linked down there below as well. You'll also find a link to our email down there where you can get in touch with us if you'd like. And we are putting this at the end of every episode now. In October, we do a charity fundraiser for mental health for the charity To Write Love on Her Arms. And if you want to be a part of that or get in touch with us and you want some more information on that, you can hit us up at that email address down there.
That's it for this week. Thank you for watching.
Till next week. Cheers.
Cheers.